YC stands for You Sports Person back in again video, and today I'm going to be showing you some Doctor Who figures what I have in my collection so far. I'm just going to tilt that down like so you guys can see the desk. We're going to start off with the 10th Doctor. There he is, my favourite Doctor. This Doctor is more of a reused and reissued figure, which usually buy. I've had, in fact, this is the one I've had the longest, which was my first set of action figures for Doctor Who, but that one was from birthday last year, because this one has the broken hand. But looking on the details, we do have the head sculpt. We have the jacket, which has the lapels on, and of course it does look really highly detailed, especially on the buttons and of course the sleeves with the creases. We have one hand which has the Sonic in it but doesn't come with a screwdriver, and one open hand. The suit is actually a usual suit which is used quite a lot in the Doctor Who episodes, as it was more worn than the blue striped suit. Now looking on the back, shows off the creases and pockets and stuff like that. Even the head sculpt does look like David Tennant as well. Even the shoes have a nice dirty look to them. This is a soft PVC, so I don't think it says it on it, but if you lift up the coat, it does in fact, if I just take his coat off, I'll try not to break it. But his But even at the back of the waist, it does have some nice detail, especially on the waistcoat here, on the jacket, which has the band going around, and it does look very cool, especially with the little cut slit there. So I'll put his jacket back on now. There we go. So, looking at articulation, it does the full 360 on the head, but wouldn't recommend it as you can see on mine. It does have the paint rub issues, especially on this one, because I've had this one for a longer time. If I just lift up his neck, you can't really tell, but it does have the little mark just about here. If this is going to be able to focus. There we go. Also, his wrist does not articulate, because the problem is if you twist it, you will break his hand and end up using blue tack. But he does have articulation 360, and of course on the joint elbow, 90 degrees. His waist does twist side to side slightly, but not fully. It does do the splits, and it does kick out forward and backwards just, and especially on the knee, it does do the usual kick pose. And that's the articulation, which was very basic for this character on this figure, and it's also on many of the Doctor figures as well, which are the basic standard issued, So, moving on to one of the companions, Martha Jones. I know the hairpiece is missing because it snapped off a few years ago, but it does look like Martha Jones. I don't know her real name by accident, so I'm sorry. But the jacket and the coat looks, well, I say the coat, jacket, whichever you want to call it, looks very nice. It has the nice soft rubber, which is again soft PVC. The back has some creases, and of course the stripes down the seams. especially on the legs, which has the massive usual trousers, and also acts as a bit of a helper to stand her up, which we see. As for articulation, we will, however, go through that. The head does do a full 360, no problem. The arm, full 360, and the arm here does do a full 360 and a 90 degrees bend into the elbow. The wrists, the hands will do a full 360. And as for the full 360 around the waist, and of course does the splits. If you want an episode of Martha Jones doing the splits in the TARDIS with the Doctor, then hey ho. She can bend her knees like so, and that is all the articulation that we do have in this figure. Just to mention about this figure, this came with a set with the 10th Doctor, and of course it came with the two masters. It came with Professor Yana and the master played by John Sim. So it was a 4-pack, and I had this for a very long time. But it's a great set to get, as it was a Christmas present at one point. But yeah. So speaking of the master, played by John Sim. I know it looks like a vampire right now because I've had this for so many years, and when you buy it, the face sculpt does look a bit more like John Sim, but because you've had this for a few years and it's harder plastic than the David Tennant one, the eyes do start to paint bleed, because then it looks like a walking zombie. Oh, I'm gonna drink a blood. But the cravat, the waistcoat looks very nice, especially on these little arms where it looks bulky. Has a similar articulation as Martha Jones. Even the legs do look very detailed, especially on the pockets, and again on the back of the waistcoat you have this little tie bit here, which does look very accurate. The shoes are just very black and basic, as you can see. For articulation, again, full 360 on the head, full 360 on the arm, and at the other bit of the arm, 90 degrees at the elbow, and 360 on the hand, and of course the twist at the wrist there, not the wrist, the waist. You can also do the splits, again, flexing in it. Also can do the kick in, kick out type thing, and even the articulation there as well, especially on the Martha figure. I forgot about that, sorry. But that is a great figure. It did come again with a set. Also there's Professor Yana, which I'm going to do right in a minute. But there is like slight differences with these figures. But I think it's captured the screen grabs very nicely, especially the hair sculpt. But I think his hair sculpt was slightly darker than this, but that's back then, but we're thinking like it's 2019 now. So yes. Speaking of Professor Yana, we do have him. Of course, this came with a 4-pack. The face sculpt does resemble him very nicely. The hair sculpt as well, with the massive washes and stuff like that. Again, the eyes look a bit red because again the amount of years I've had him. Things are slightly changed from when he regenerated. Now, if you can spot the difference, please let me know. First things first, the chains on his coats, waistcoats have changed. The position of the cravats have changed. The trousers in the crease would change anyways. So now this is one big change on the cuffs here. You can see there's a seam mark on the cuff because that's where the articulation starts for Professor Yana on his wrist, but for the master it's on his hand. At the back, the creases seem to be a bit more tighter on the master than the professor. But the articulation's the same, I would imagine. I think. Yeah, it is. But with this head, it does look a bit awkward when he does that. Yeah. You're talking to me. So it does do through a 360. Again on the arm and head, especially on the arm there as well. The 90 degrees elbow joint there. The 360 on his wrist. Full 360 on the waist. You can do the splits. It can kick forward and backwards. And of course bend at the knees. Great figure. Came with a 4-pack again. So yeah, moving on to something a bit more, you know, more companion-like, such as Donna Noble, aka Catherine Tate, which was again in one that's been asked for the comic relief. Now this does look more like Catherine Tate, as it does resemble her face sculpt. Does look very pointed and very amused, if you like to say. The hair sculpt is the usual red with a little slightly greyish white wash to it, which is a separate piece to the front. But she does meant to have articulation, but it is pretty stiff. She can move her head side to side, just lift her hair off, like so. And the next thing you know, she'll be doing that. But you can just about turn her head around, like especially around the back. But I wouldn't really recommend it. The coat looks very nice, especially with the so-called like fluff on the sides of the jackets here. The hood looks very nice, especially when it's got that look to say it's been used. The arms do seem to be more subtle, especially on this one because it's slightly wobble. As for the dress, as resembled in one of the episodes, which are very correct. Articulation, again, 360 on the head, but won't recommend it. 360 on the arm there, 360 on there, 90 degrees there, 360 on there. She can rotate her waist. She can semi-do the splits, just spread her legs out basically. Kick forwards and backwards, and a new sculpt for the legs, which she can rotate her ankle, her leg, and also she can do the kick in, kick out. So that's the articulation for Donna Noble. Highly great figure. This came with a different set. This came with the narrator, I think it was, and it came with, I think it's Professor River's Song as the astronaut. I meant astronaut as in like archaeologist when she first met the 10th Doctor, so that's nice. Which we do have the narrator. Now, this looks a lot like the character. I'm sorry for the face sculpt looks a bit battered because his nose slightly chipped, and his hair starting to fall off. Well, I say fall off, it's losing its paint. But it does have a grey wash in there, which looks very nice, especially if you look at it. I don't think you can tell, but it does have a grey wash. The coat itself, the cloak, looks very nice, especially with the Gallifreyan type looking writing here on the sides. We have the Gallifreyan symbol here on his chest, as it does, especially on here, looks very basic. His hand seemed to be like a glove, which he uses. I think it's for his other arm, I can't remember. It does come with his little, I forgot what it's called, but it comes with its stick. But I've currently lost it and I don't know where it is, so yes. But you can reveal his, this, which does show off the boots, what he wears, which does look very shiny. For articulation, full 360 on the head there. Wouldn't recommend it again because of the paint sculpt. Full 360 on the arm there. Now, mine has a slight issue. Mine's got quality control on it because of the peg is quite loose on it and it's not meant to be. And if you just say you wanted to bend that, it just pops out and it's not meant to. But you can, again, twist it around, as you can guess, especially on his wrist there, or his hand. The legs have got articulation, but I don't see the point, because this is the cloak that's helping him, keeping him up, actually. It's quite dusty. But he's also got a peg hole as well, for some strange reason. But it does have the new sculpt where his shoes does do a full 360. But he can do the spread his legs, kick in and out, especially bend on the knees, type of motion. I don't think you could have seen that, but I think he's got a waist articulation. Yes, he does. That's something new. So, yeah. Now, it did come with this little sword or whatever stick it was, but again, I lost it, and I forgot where I've put it, but he was in the end of time, when David Tennant was end of his era and returned into Matt Smith. Speaking of the devil. Oh, damn it. The Raggedy Man. This one's got quality control as well, sorry. Just let me pick the mic up. There we go. Oh, damn it. Sorry, it's not usually like this. There we go. Now, Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor. This character is mainly the 11th Doctor, which was the most likeable Doctor from Fallen Gaming, because that's how we got into Doctor Who, from when David Tennant, my favourite Doctor, returned into Matt Smith. And I was thinking, this is just getting too stupid, but I actually liked it. And it was a good character, but then Pete Capaldi took over his place afterwards. So looking at the sculpt, we do have the resemblance to Matt Smith, especially after his regeneration, which he does look a bit more like a Teng doll, like he does he says in his regeneration, "I'm a doll." He's got the shirt on. Sorry, the articulation is a bit rubbish on his legs, but you can't even stand him up because that's why the crotch here is split into piece. So meaning if I do the splits on him or rotate it, it will pop out of place and it's a pain to put back in. But anyways, back on the shirt, it is using the shirt from the 10th Doctor, from his blue shirt. He's also wearing the same tie. He's got the same articulation as Martha Jones. Now here is where you can see a bit of a pin issue here. Now this is where the original tie knot was, but this is a completely new sculpt and they moved it further down, and they've just put a blab of paint on top of there. So that's something new. The hair sculpt looks like he just got out the shower and just swiffed it to a side. The trousers, the actual clothing is using the same brown clothing from David Tennant's era, from when he was wearing it for the usual end, which was his usual outfit. The shoes are not even, they're still mucky, do have the BBC logo and stuff like that. On the back, we do have a lot of creases and scratches, especially indentations from when it got hit. On his legs do have little scratch marks from when the piece of the tie just got stuck to him or something. For articulation, the head does full 360. Arm full 360, does full 360 there. Full 360 on the elbow joint here and the wrists, which are pretty good. full 360 on the waist here. You can do the splits, but I wouldn't recommend it if your figure does that. And you can do the kick in, kick out on both sections, but I wouldn't recommend it because if you have a figure that has that problem, yeah. But it was one of the most characters I wanted to get, the Raggedy Man. But of course I wanted the 11th Doctor, so I got the 11th Doctor, which I'm going to show off right now. So, oh jeez, Louise, spoiler alert. No, he just looks like he's just been doing a bit of posing for the old cowboy. Now, this is not the usual version of Matt Smith. This is the one when he went to see his death, I think it was. Or something like that. He is wearing his Stetson, or cowboy hat. He's got his bow tie. His shirt is a completely different sculpt, especially his tweed jacket, which on the back does have the patches. And the pockets as well look very nice. Similar articulation to the Martha Jones figure, except for on the legs. And the face sculpt does look more like Matt Smith as well, especially on the sides here. The back